Joining me now here on the Knicks Film School pregame show, with the Knicks continuing their Western Conference road trip and hoping to rebound after their loss to the Utah Jazz. The task gets so much easier, and they get to go play the Phoenix Suns, who just had their Big Three return on the night that the Suns will be retiring Sean Marion's number. Joining me to talk about this matchup, he is a comedian first and foremost, so we'll see if this episode is a little funnier. Can't be funnier than the Knicks defense last night. He's also a writer for Fan Buzz Sports and one of the co-hosts of Locked on Suns. Aaron Edwards, welcome to the Knicks Film School Podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, it should be fun.
I'm hoping it's more fun than my experience last night watching the Knicks see the Jazz rain threes in Utah. But we're gonna move on, and we're gonna talk to you about this matchup against the Suns. But I will say, I think you might have had the worst night, because you got to see the Big Three finally play together, and you got to see Miles Bridges return to Phoenix. And this was his first game.
Mikal Bridges.
That is a very important distinction.
Mikal Bridges. That's important.
Returning. They're two very different people. You are very correct.
People would have been on me if I didn't correct you on that.
Good call. Good call.
Okay. Yeah.
I apologize. That may be a hint of Nick, Ned, little brother, big brother syndrome, where I just, all your names are the same. No. Mikal Bridges' first game back in Phoenix. And the Nets spoil the Suns' party of getting to see the Big Three play for the first time. Now, looking at some of the data and watching the fourth quarter today, it seemed more like the Big Three was great when they played together. It was when they weren't playing together that they lost the minutes. And the Nets had a bit of a fourth quarter explosion between Cam Thomas and Spencer Dinwiddie. Just give me your thoughts to Knicks fans that didn't get to watch the game, because we had a disappointing matchup of our own. Your feelings the day after losing that game to the Nets.
I was excited to see Mikal and Cam Johnson. Can't forget about Cam, big shot Cam. I mean, you remember him. He had a buzzer beater against you guys.
Yes, I remember. We have a legendary clip from playback with that buzzer beater. So
yeah, and it was just good seeing those. There's this thing with Suns fans. They love Mikal and Cam so much that it was just fun seeing them. And the Big Three did look good, but we also were down just so many bench guys that have been starters that finally get to go back to the bench. So this is going to weird a lot of people out, but this is the Grayson Allen love account over here. Grayson Allen's a big deal on the Suns. I didn't expect him to be that good. I promise y'all, I didn't expect to like him this much either. But Grayson Allen, he's been a big part of the team, and he's out with a growing injury. And Eric Gordon sat because of a hip or something. So it was just we didn't have any shooting out there, and we kind of expected once those guys sat that it might get ugly. And another part of it is, when Spencer Dinwiddie sees a Suns jersey, he turns into Michael Jordan every time. It's just a known thing that we live with now, that when Spencer Dinwiddie plays against us, he's going to hit 35-footers. He's going to get to the rim whenever he wants, and he's going to hit tough shots.
Yeah, Dinwiddie can do that. And I mean, look, you're speaking from experience. The Dinwiddie game I think of, not to bring up painful memories for you, is the Game 7 against the Suns in the playoffs.
It's going to come up.
I figured. Well, look, there's a Jalen Brunson aspect.
Yeah, that's where I was going to bring it up.
Yeah. Brunson, obviously, his career highlight, although I would argue his career highlight to this point is either the series he most recently played against the Heat, where he almost single-handedly forced a Game 7, or the Utah series before that Sun series, in which, with Luka out, Brunson put his name on a national stage. So do Suns fans have animosity toward Brunson in that way because of how that series went, or is it not really Brunson focused?
No, that is not Brunson focused at all. It's only one person focused on that one. I mean, a lot of people think he's a foul baiting short dude, but it's not really. That's not the guy that the animosity from that series comes from. It's only one person and one person only.
I'm just going to go on record, because you called him a foul baiting short dude. Your team employed Chris Paul for 2 years, and that is a thing that happened. So let's just call a spade a spade. And we
both got ours. A
lot of these short dudes have to be effective in the league in some way, and ours is very good at it. And the ones that are good at it succeed at it. So let's give me the vibes. What is the tone in Phoenix? The fact that we're in game 23. And I guess for you, 24, and it's the first time you saw the Big Three play together. What's the mood among Suns fans at the moment?
I mean, everybody's on edge, but hopeful. We got to see a lot of dudes that probably weren't going to play a lot. And now we kind of we were just talking about it on Locked On Suns. Like, we kind of know what the rotation is going to be for the most part. We know where the big looming problems are. Like, we need a backup center really bad. Like, Eubanks just isn't it. But it's just a lot of hopefulness. Like, we got a lot of open shots. KD got more open shots than I think he's ever gotten yesterday. So I think, like, the scoring is going to happen. It's just the defense and health. Like, we really think we're going to be fine, and it's going to be hard to beat us 4 games in the series. But it's mostly just everything being cohesive and guys playing together. Like Book and Beal, they were kind of just one gets it, and then they kind of ISO, and the other one sits there in the corner, and then another person would get it. They were doing like this either or thing. And once they get used to each other, it's their second game playing together. So once they get used to each other and being on ball, it'll be a lot smoother, I think.
To follow up on that, you said once they get used to each other, and like I had Sam Cooper of the Blue Wire Suns podcast, the Timeline podcast. Yeah, Sam's a friend, and he was saying like I know the net comp is going to come up. That Kevin Durant's last big 3, when we saw it, it was outstanding. We just never saw it. So like the follow up to when they get used to each other, is there any worry that they're just never going to play enough together to actually see them get used to each other? Or do you now see them, they're back, and now we are confident enough they'll play enough that come playoff time, this will be a thing we're ready to see full time?
Yeah, I think the rest stuff is going to start with KD. Like, he had to play a lot of minutes to start the season. So I can see, like, before All-Star break, we start getting, like, seeing a couple KD DNPs and stuff. But I think if we can bar any serious injuries, like, most of the rest stuff is just going to come when we, like, have a solidified spot in the playoffs and our record's a lot better and all that. I think the Beal back thing, they were really secretive about that. And he even said it wasn't really just a strain. It was something else, but he never really went in depth into it. So when you're playing with backs, like, you're just going to be scared about that the entire season. But I think a lot of, like, once they get used to each other, and if they get used to each other, a lot of the minute stuff is just going to be guys sitting because they can. Like, I think KD is going to start sitting once we start winning a couple games. KD's going to start sitting a bit.
So the other guys that you mentioned, you said you're a Grayson Allen stan account. We have, I mean, he seems to kill the Knicks when he plays them. There's a game winner he hit with Milwaukee last season. I just personally, the punchable face rankings that exist. He unfortunately is first team all punchable face. Having said that, I recognize the Knicks may have some punchable faces of their own as well. And, you know, it's all about perspective. But there are role players on the Suns that are going to have to fill out the rest of these rotation when you have the big 3. So from your perspective, and maybe if you want to speak on behalf of Suns fans, who are the 2 that you're like, it's the big 3 and then these 2? That's the lineup that's going to have to carry us when it comes to playoff time.
We were just talking about that. I think it's going to be the big 3, and like they were just they called it yesterday during the interview, or the big 4. Nurk had 17 and 22 rebounds yesterday.
Okay.
So I think that Nurk is going to be a huge part of it. I'm not sure if he's going to be playable in the playoffs, which is going to be a lot of small ball stuff. So like, I think Nurk is going to be a huge deal of just getting us to the end of the season and being comfortable and making like the smart passes. He's a really good passer, and he's been helping a lot with that. And and I think Grayson, I think the other stuff like the wings, we're still figuring that out. I think the huge thing is if Nasir Little really like kind of takes off and makes the leap, because Vogel really likes him, and he makes the on ball defensive leap and just hitting open shots. Like, I think he shot like 38% from 3 last year. Like, if he can hit open shots and be the athlete that we kind of need him to be on defense and in transition, Nasir Little can be pretty big. So
Nasir Little and Jordan Goodwin and Eric Gordon, the last time the Knicks played the Suns.
Jordan
What'd I say?
No, I meant it. Like, Jordan Goodwin came out of nowhere. I saw a bunch of Knicks fans tweet.
Is that still a thing, is my question? Or did he, like usually happens with the Knicks, some rando just decided to have their best career game and, you know, left the rotation a week later?
Oh, no, like Jordan Goodwin he almost made the game winning steal. Like, it was like 5 seconds left.
That's right. The end of the game. That's like, yeah. They were down 2 trying to steal the ball. He got it, but then when he went to throw it, it ended up in Spencer Dinwiddie's hands. That's right.
Yeah. So I think like Jordan Goodwin, his minutes are going to get dwindled down now because we have Beal back, and Grayson Allen and Eric Gordon are going to be our guards. But defensively, if anything, Okogie's going to lose minutes because Jordan Goodwin's so good on defense, and with the ball in his hand. So I can see Jordan Goodwin kind of taking somebody's spot. He's going to play because Vogel like.
So I bring up Goodwin because this just may be a thing with every team that the fan bases, every single fan base has a player that they're upset that the coach doesn't play more. With the Knicks, it's Emmanuel Quickly. I was digging through Jazz Twitter after the game last night because I thought Will Hardy like outcoached Tom Thibodeau to an extent. Granted, a lot went wrong for the Knicks. I don't think they lost the coaching margin significantly, but it was like a substitution pattern here or there. And then I'm going through Jazz Twitter, and they're like, why doesn't Will Hardy play Chris Dunn enough? Why isn't Chris Dunn getting more minutes? Why is he 10th on this team in minutes when he's this, and this? And I'm just like, so this is every team has this. So who's the guy on the Suns?
We kind of don't have any of those right now. And we just I literally just talked about this on Locked On Suns. Vogel, it's really a meritocracy. Like, you know how fans, when you're tweeting, you're like, God, like, why does this dude get so many minutes? Such and such should be playing. But if such and such plays and he plays well, the next game, that dude will have the minutes. Like, Vogel does it that way. So anytime the way the fans see it, if a dude's playing bad and another guy's playing better, the next game, the guy does have the minutes and the other guy's sitting. Like, it's worked like that the entire time. Bates Diop, like, he was playing all right. And then Nasir Little kind of went off. So Nasir Little started getting the minutes and Bates Diop hasn't gotten the minutes back. The only place that hasn't really worked is backup center because we don't have one. So Eubanks has to play, but he's been really bad. So there's nobody else that can play over because Bol shouldn't be in the NBA either. So it's just one of those situations where he's kind of stuck right now.
So then let me project a bit. Now that the starters, the big three is back, and while you understand that the championship pedigree is around them, who do you foresee being the odd man out that fans could potentially be like, no, they have to play?
I can see it being Jordan Goodwin still.
Goodwin. I knew it. I knew that's where we were going.
Yeah. I think it's been Jordan Goodwin. We did have players like that before. When Monty was here, I was a huge Aaron Holiday guy. I wanted him to play so much. I wanted Shamet to leave the NBA in general. And he was just playing so many more minutes. And I wanted Aaron Gordon to play. So, yes, we did used to have that. But Vogel's such a new guy that he kind of works a little different.
Dude, Suns fans to this point, does Vogel have an approval rating, significantly higher than Monty Williams? Is that something that's been a welcome change?
That's still TBD.
It's TBD.
Once the playoff stuff, because Monty, he can get you to the playoffs and he can give you a strong regular season and all that. But I think the reason they didn't choose him to lead this team is because of the playoff stuff. He probably would have figured it out and we would have had 155 games, 60 games, and he would have been good. But I think it's the lead part. And I don't think Monty really had it in him to juggle that many personalities at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you see what's going on with Monty now. I guess that's just a follow up, your perspective and on what's going on in Detroit at the moment with your old head coach.
Yeah, we had a joke that we wouldn't even know who Jordan Goodwin was if Monty was here. I think that's how we feel about him. It was kind of unanimous that right after the buzzer was over on the Denver Nuggets game, I was like, he's not making it these next couple of days. And they did it a lot faster than I thought they would. But we kind of were all pretty unanimous on Monty being gone at that point.
Really? Yeah. That's funny because outside looking in, how much Knicks fans criticize Tom Thibodeau, some of it being justified. I never know if you look elsewhere and I've heard before, if only we had a coach like Monty Williams, if only we had a coach like Frank Vogel, both who got fired from the most recent places of employment. And I don't know, the conversation about coaching and how much it matters, it always fascinates me because at the end of the day, Frank Vogel can win certain margins, but the Suns are going to win a title if Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal are special, no?
Yeah, but it was just extra stuff. Even though the guys that Monty had the problems with, everybody's gone. The entire team from last year. Yeah,
Ayton was the big one. Yeah,
Ayton and the Chris Paul thing, all of that. The Suns fans were even out on Chris Paul toward the end of it. I think so. A lot of that stuff that was attached to Monty, he was kind of stuck in his ways and he hates young players. So, and I think the Suns were going to have to build a team with vets and young guys. And they were like, we're not going to put Monty through that. He won't handle that well, all of that. So yeah, like at the end of the day, the players are going to have to play. But I think a dude that doesn't have the whole team hate him is actually another big deal too.
I think that's a positive, a step in the right direction that for culture, that the entire team doesn't hate the guy in charge of running the entire team. So the Friday night is Sean Marion night in Phoenix, and they're going to retire his number. I want to ask you a couple of evergreen questions before we talk about this matchup. And so the two big ones that I've gone to, the first one is a bit of a like an all-time jerseys number, who you go to now, not like retired numbers, but like if you could, I don't know if you already have these jerseys in your closet, but like who are the 4 Suns that all time you're like, if I were to only have 4 jerseys to represent my fanhood as a Suns fan, who would it be? And is Matrix on that list?
Yeah, I would say it's Matrix, Chuck. Personally, Quentin Richardson, because that was a good deal when I was in high school.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Knicks legend. I'm not even doing this because I'm on a Knicks legend.
No, once a Knick, always a Knick.
I'm not even doing this because I'm on a Knicks spot. It's just because the knock on the head thing was big when I was in high school, and he was the one doing it, so we did it because of them. I got my first technical in a high school game because of that. So like, it's Quentin Richardson and Steve Nash.
I'm in Nash. Okay. No. So how do you feel about Amari? Speaking of this being a Knicks pod.
I love Amari. We were talking like, I think he could still get minutes over Eubanks right now if he really wanted to.
So if you wanted to get a backup center, there you go. Go get Amari Stoudemire.
I mean, Amari hated playing center after a while, but
we know. Believe me, we know. I had to go get Tyson Chandler because Amari hated playing center.
I forgot about that. Okay,
yeah. Knicks' best lineup was Amari at the 5 and Melo at the 4, and they were like, "No, go get Tyson Chandler." Exactly. Yeah, the rest is history. You know.
So I think like I love Amari. Like he was really big in the city, and we saw him a lot all the time. Like I hated leaving Joe Johnson off that list, honestly. But yeah, I just think that those 4, like they kind of all different eras of the reason why I wanted them.
So Matrix, Chuck, Steve Nash, and Q Rich.
Yeah.
When does Booker qualify for your jersey list?
He kind of does now, but like still nostalgically, I want to keep Q in there, even though I could technically drop him if I wanted to. But if I was like being real about myself, it'll probably be Book over Q.
Book over Q. See, it's funny. There's the Knicks don't have the playoff success that the Suns do. And I know you might not even think the Suns have a ton of playoff success, but we have like this stretch in the 90s, and that's really it, that as far as the Knicks and their playoff success is concerned. And there's an I have a Carmelo Anthony jersey behind me, as you can see. But
I got a Sean Marion bobblehead right behind me.
So there you go. So like there is an affection for the guys we grew up watching. Yeah. But like I have a version of the Q Richardson. Like Jamal Crawford was my guy growing up. Now part of that is because when I started being able to drive and travel without parental supervision, some of the first places I'd go to was Madison Square Garden. And who was the only Knicks that would stop to do autographs? It was Jamal Crawford after every game. Here's my ticket stub. Can you sign it? I have no clue where those ticket stubs are, by the way, right now. But like that memory is in my brain that when I think, honestly, when I thought of number 11 for a longest time, it was Jamal Crawford. Then, Jalen Brunson got number 11 and that changed everything. But it's fascinating. So the other big one that I go to is the Mount Rushmore of rivals, because like when the calendar comes out every year, you look through the NBA schedule, and for Knicks fans, we have certain dates that we circle on the calendar. And I'm curious for you, a Suns fan, what your perspective is. Like, who are the dates that you circle? Who are the 4 main rivals that you go to? It's like, I cannot wait for this night on the calendar.
It's not even that big of one anymore, because mostly it's not even rivals. We were just excited. Like so many of our old players are gone. It was mostly excitement to see our old players again because they didn't leave on bad terms. I mean, the Ayton thing's a little bit weird, but I think for the most part, like it wasn't really circling people. But if I can put 2 teams twice to make the Rushmore, it would probably just be the Lakers 2 times and Dallas.
The Lakers and Dallas. There's no Warriors on there? Like Draymond literally just punched one of your players in the face and may never play again.
Yeah, but like it was never any like hard feelings. Like even when Clay and Book did that thing with each other, like Clay like apologized. He was like, Book was killing me and I got mad about it, but I love Book. Like it's not really like hate with their fans, like because it's not really hate with their players. I think the Laker thing is always just going to be the Laker thing, and the Dallas thing is always going to be the Luka thing. And that's going to be forever.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm shocked that it's only two teams. There's no Bucks.
It would be San Antonio if like, but that was years ago. And Tim Duncan and Bruce Bowen's gone. Like that was Bruce Bowen was the huge thing. And once Bruce Bowen was gone, and Robert Horry, obviously, because he stole a championship from us, I think that was mostly like the deal with them. But now that they were bad and they're just that now, like it's not really a rivalry anymore.
Aaron, I got to tell you how kindred spirit we are at the moment. So you just said Robert Horry stole a title from you, right? But what you really mean is David Stern stole a title from you because he suspended Amari for Game 5. So quick backstory. When I was in college, one of my roommates my sophomore year was from Phoenix and a huge Suns fan. And one of the things we bonded over was he was like still holding a grudge. This is 2011 we're talking about. So 4 years after the suspension, still held a grudge because of the Robert Horry hip check of Steve Nash that led to the suspension, right? And like we bonded because he was an Amari fan and he was on my basketball team at the time. But I was like, I still hold a grudge because in 1997, Patrick Ewing took 1 foot off the bench and he got suspended for Game 6 against the Heat during the year that I thought they had their best chance to beat the Bulls. Now, I may just be like seeing things that I thought the Knicks could beat the Bulls that year, that they had the good chance to beat Michael Jordan, but the Bulls had one home loss during that regular season. It was to the Knicks. The Bulls had only one team did they finish 500 against that season. It was the Knicks. I thought that 57-win Knicks team, that was their best chance. And because of a flat out melee in Game 5, in which Patrick Ewing took one. Yeah. That was PJ Brown flipping Charlie Ward, is what that game was.
Yeah.
And it led to the Knicks only having 9 available players for Game 6. It was called the 9-man 1 mission. Well, guess what? Mission failed. They lost that game and then lost the series. So yeah, I share your frustration. Not in this. I agree with you in the sense that like Robert Horry doesn't do that. The Suns may win the title. The Knicks win that series. They may just lose to Michael Jordan, and it's a footnote. But I feel your pain, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that series was the championship pretty much, and everybody knew that was the finals because I think the Suns were going to win the championship that year. And
you go real quick. You go through that playoffs and what happened when Dirk and the Mavs go out in the first round. And then like the East is like it's the Pistons or LeBron. Like that's really all the East was that year, you know?
Yeah, and it was just the run and gun Suns, and that team was just so fun. It was like the perfect time that it all finally came together. Like everything finally looked right. And D'Antoni, like he had them working on all cylinders. And like we knew that was our shot. And once it didn't happen, everybody was just over Stern and hated Robert Horry forever.
So can I ask you how that run and gun 7 seconds or less Suns team is remembered? Because like obviously no finals trip, no title, but a lot of the way basketball looks today is with a pace and with spacing involved. And like there's a D'Antoni legacy in New York as well, which it's a complicated one because he came here for the rebuild and then the Knicks didn't get LeBron and Dwayne Wade. And then they got Carmelo, who was the worst player to play for that head coach. Like, here, pass the ball. And Melo's like, no, I have an open shot every time I have it. But like, how do Suns fans look back on that Steve Nash, Amari, D'Antoni era, even though it didn't end in a championship?
We look back at it, it was so fun. Okay. And it was like right when I was playing like high school basketball. So it was like right in that area. And that Suns team shot a commercial in our old gym and they were cool. Like they signed autographs and stuff outside the gym because they shot the commercial there. Like those guys were always in the city, like always. Like Joe Johnson paid for our food at a McDonald's by our school.
Hey.
Like they were just always outside. And I think it was like they were so just in the city and with the people that everybody just loved them so much. So I think they're like looked on pretty well.
Okay. So It sounds even more personal for you, though. Like,
Yeah,
I never met a Nick from the 90s teams, but that's how I look back on that team, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and they were winning, and they played in like one of the most fun styles, too. I saw my first playoff game. It was against Dallas. I think it was like 06. And they were still like, it was the end of it, sort of like the running gunners, but like, it was one of the most fun games I ever seen. We beat Dallas by like 25, and Sean Marion went off, and Steve Nash. Like, it was one of the most fun games I had been to. And so, like, yeah, I think we just looked pretty fondly on them because they were fun and they were just cool dudes who were in the city.
Yeah. Well, listen, the Knicks Suns history, the connections that I usually go to before every pod is like the D'Antoni Amari thing when that came to New York, and there's a stretch before the Melo trade, after the decision happens and the Knicks don't get the summer they wanted, but they had Amari and they had like all young players, Raymond Felton, Gallinari, Wilson Chandler, Timofey Mozgov. Like, it was just a bunch of young kids. There was no expectations. There is a portion of this fan base that was like, that was the most fun ever. And then they traded for Melo and they ruined it. And it's like, yeah, they won 54 games, 2 games later.
Yeah.
I don't know that they ruined it, but I can respect like the play style, even if it didn't accomplish the end goal. It was just enjoyable to watch, and that ends up being like more fun than actually. Although Tibbs would argue winning is more fun than fun is fun, but that maybe Tibbs will think, you know. Which, now let me get your perspective on the Knicks and what you think of this basketball team. I like to like hand the pod over to my guest or my co-host for the day and see what they think of the basketball team that they're about to play. So, any questions or thoughts about the Knicks through 23 games from afar?
Mostly like, how do you guys feel about like the layout? My big question is, what do you want to happen with Julius Randle? Like, that was like
the Randle question.
Yeah. And well, I used to work for NBA All Caps, and I wrote for Jason Concepcion, and
man.
Yeah, and I'm in a group chat with him and a couple comedians. So like, this is actually kind of the most positive he's been about the Knicks in a long time. I was at a restaurant. We were watching on our phone in LA when Cam Johnson hit that half court. Well, the buzzer beater. Yeah. And so like, he was like devastated at dinner, and like, I was just running around a restaurant. So like, yes, I know a Knicks fan, and I swear this is the most positive he's kind of been about them. But the Randall thing does still come up in the text.
So, first of all, friend of the pod, Jason Concepcion. Shout out to Jason. Always welcome back anytime. However, the Randall conversation is so weird to have, because like, he's entering some leaderboards in Knicks history that are insane. Like, he just passed Clyde yesterday for 30-point games in Knicks history. And like, he's 161 threes away from being the all-time leader in three-pointers with the Knicks.
Attempts, because he can reach that by February.
Well, okay, but like, the thing is, you want him to take a ton of threes, you know, because he may not hit an effective clip, but if he's hitting 34% on 9 threes per 36, then like, that's something out of your 4 that actually leads to effective spacing. It's the weirdest relationship to a guy that's climbing up a team's leaderboards that I've ever seen, because he got off to this historically bad start. And since that first 6 games, he's been better than last year. So think about that. I'm saying he's been better than all NBA Randall last year. His passing has been outstanding this season. And there's still this lack of trust, this lack of belief in he's gonna be good when it counts. His bad games are lead to much more vocal criticism than anybody else's bad games besides RJ. And I genuinely don't know what the team does with him, because I don't know of another team that wants to trade for him the way the Knicks value him. This isn't a good stats, bad team guy. The Knicks win a ton of games with him.
Yeah.
But I can understand, like, if an entire group chat is making jokes at Julius Randle's expense. I can also understand a young Knicks fan being like, Julius has been their best player and the biggest turnaround in the franchise. Is like, do you remember what we had before Julius Randle came here and took a gigantic leap? Like, what is this? So it's complicated, but right now he's like significantly balling at the moment. So I credit him for that.
What's wild is this time last year when KD we knew the KD thing was over. We knew it was no possibility. Like, he went back to Brooklyn. It wasn't happening. He was staying. But we knew we needed to make a move. Like, we knew we did.
Julius Randle trade rumors. That's right.
And I was just like, I was all in on Julius Randle. So, like, I'm not one of those people that hate on him. Like, I see the hate. But this time last year, I wanted him in the Suns jersey pretty bad.
So I talked to Sam about that. So it's funny. 2 years ago, but let me just give you this because of Jason probably, but like Julius Randle's first year is the COVID shortened season, not the open gym one, the empty gyms one, the COVID shortened season. And he was like 20-10, but it was an inefficient 20-10. That whole year was just kind of ass. Like the Fizdale era ending, he was 4-18 that year and giggling his last loss. And it was like, all right, you just lost by 40. We're going to fire you. And then they were like, what would now be considered a play-in team after that. But they were like the 10th best team in the conference after that. And then COVID ends the season. The next year, the first Tibbs year, a revelation, shoots 40% from three, wins most improved player, makes all NBA, deservedly so, and then is awful against the Suns. And then the following season, he has this it's tough to even really dissect. It was a 20-10. It was 20-10-5, but everybody hated each other. Like no one liked watching him play. He wasn't making teammates better. He was just like moody and had the thumbs down game. And it was like, he's a ticking time bomb that we don't know if he's going to try during games or not. We don't know if this is a Julius Randle game where he's going to try. And so that whole offseason, we spent trying to find other content creators. Like, what do you want for Julius? Like, how would you like Julius Randle on your team? Let's go to a Hornets fan. How would you like Julius Randle on your team? We had Sam on. How would you like him on the Suns? So like, there is a clear, like we understand the market and like the secret's out. He's a very inconsistent player, but it's just like here, I'm going to read off his stats since those first 6 games. So he started off the year with one of the most torridly bad starts to like in basketball history to start an NBA season, right? It's 17 games since. He's averaging 26 a game, 10 rebounds, 6 assists on 51, 36, 75 shooting, 51% from the field on 18 shots a game, as well as like with 6 assists. Like those are all NBA stats right there. Like, that's why it's so weird to be like, I have no idea what to make of this player. And yet I'm looking at his numbers like he's actually like a really good basketball player is what I could make of him. So that's the Julius Randle perspective I have, at least. Okay.
And I think my next one was, because I don't get to talk to that many Knicks fans. Would you have made the RJ Barrett trade?
Which one? There's so many of them.
It was the one.
You talking about the Mitchell one?
Yes.
The Donovan Mitchell one.
I mean, he still might end up there. It's like,
that's the thing is, I don't think he's long for Cleveland either.
Yeah.
The RJ Barrett conversation is more complicated than the Julius Randle one. I think it's more exhausting than the Julius Randle one.
I just think like there would just be games I would turn on and he just didn't look comfortable and he was inefficient. And it was just the entire like gamut of young dude taking bad mid-rangers. But now he really does look like he figured it out now. So I think everybody waiting it out is a lot better because he looked, at least the Suns game, he's just looked a lot more comfortable.
So that Suns game, maybe, his efficiency's fallen off a cliff a bit. And we're coming off, he threw 3 for 16 last night. And it's we're in a stretch now. And you want to talk about the inverse of Julius Randle's season? RJ got off to like an all NBA start to the season, then missed a couple games with migraines. And the shooting has just taken a nosedive. And I'm trying to be patient and throw a bone to the RJ Hive that is extremely vocal and is like, he's going to figure it out. He's a star, and like Star J Barrett or whatever it's called. And we're on year 5 of this player. And I think he's miscast. The guy gets to the rim at an elite level and the Knicks always have someone in the dunker spot. So I wonder if his next team will play 5 out and try to maximize RJ in lineups where he can get downhill and it's just him and one other defender. The problem I have with that logic is if they bring a second guy, RJ's still going to try and take a shot. He does not have the court vision that we were seeing, or has not just displayed the court vision that we're seeing, that if you draw a defender, there's someone open. So That's, I think, my frustration with RJ. And like, he is miscast on the current Knicks, where he needs to shoot like 38, 39% from three because he's getting looks, and he's like the inverse of Julius Randle. He started off like 50% from three, and it's been like 25% since then.
Jeez.
So it's a bit of it's inconsistent, which is what RJ Barrett's been through 5 years. Inconsistent.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty much all I had. I mean, Thibs did steal a coach of the year from Monty that one year.
You still believe that?
Yeah, I really do. I mean, we had the best record in the league. Man.
Because you traded for Chris Paul.
That still doesn't change anything. That leap was still huge.
The leap, fine. But they were a team that went undefeated in the bubble, whatever you want to make of it. And then they were like a 9 seed, right? And they traded for Chris Paul, who finished top 5 in MVP. And they were the 1 seed, right? The Knicks made one change to their roster. They were projected by Vegas to win 21 games. And they made one change. It was the head coach. And they were a 4 seed that year. Like, they won 122% more than their Vegas projection.
Yes, I think
the Monty leap, the Suns leap was great, but you traded for a Hall of Famer. The Knicks added one thing, a head coach, and won 122% more games than expected.
Yeah, I think going from a Verge bubble team to 2 games away from an NBA championship is still like kind of close to that. I think that's
it's a regular season award, though, right?
Yeah, but it was still the number 1 seed, the franchise best record we've ever had. Like, he still gave us. I think we ripped off 16 wins in a row at one point. Like, that's how big the leap was. So yes, Chris Paul was good, but I just think that the leap that team took in general wasn't all just Chris Paul.
I'm not saying it's not all Chris Paul. I'm saying like the gap I thought that happened, or the leap that was caused, was a talent upgrade. Like, if the Knicks right now, they're probably like a 45-46 win team, right? If they trade for Donovan Mitchell and win 65 games next year, I'm not going to say Tom Thibodeau's the coach of the year. I'm going to say Donovan Mitchell probably deserves MVP votes. Because the talent upgrade happened. I can't stress this enough. Elfrid Payton started every game for the Knicks that season.
Oh, you don't have
and they
to
were the 4 seed. Like,
you don't have to get me started.
Well, Elfrid Payton, there's a son. That's right. I forgot about that.
If you look up my name and the name Elfrid Payton, some mean stuff comes up.
Listen, before we criticized Julius Randle and RJ Barrett and Tom Thibodeau, we criticized Elfrid Payton. That season that the Knicks actually experienced some winning, it was like, why is Elfrid Payton starting? He is so awful. Why is this happening? And the rest is history. So going into this matchup, how confident are you?
I think the big 3 will be more comfortable. I still want to know if Eric Gordon or Grayson are back. Like, we just didn't have shooting on the floor. Like, even though we did score a lot, we gave up a lot of buckets. But I just want to see like our bench guys that are actually going to play, like our 6th man and our 7th guy. Like, I'll be a lot more confident with that, especially just in general with how smooth the offense runs. But I still don't like our backup center and our bench that much without those guys on there. So I'm comfortable because it's KD, Book, and Bill, but I still just need to see these guys together a lot more.
I will say, I don't know if you have to worry about a backup center in this one. The Knicks just lost Mitchell Robinson. So, like, the Knicks are playing their 3rd center and the starting lineup at the moment. So I don't know if
we wanted him. We wanted him pretty bad.
Hartenstein?
Yeah.
Hartenstein?
No, Mitchell Robinson.
Oh, like, Mitchell Robinson.
Suns fans wanted Mitchell Robinson pretty bad. So, I think that I'm pretty confident in this game, honestly, but I still need to see those guys a lot more. It's mostly just health and minutes and shooting. Yeah.
Which, I mean, the Knicks are coming off a game where it was very clear the health factor of Mitchell Robinson being gone mattered. Minutes... How about more than 18 for Manuel quickly? How's that? Let's start at 20 and just work our way up. How's that? And then shooting, they missed 10 free throws and went 9 of 39 from 3. So they're due for a bounce back game. We'll see if that could be a recipe for a win against what I consider a championship contender in the West. So we'll see. Aaron, this was fun. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Even though I maintain that the rightful person won Coach of the Year in 2021, but I think we'll just have to agree to disagree there.
We'll see how many Suns fans are in your comments later.
I guarantee there's gonna be pushback from it. I'm gonna just respond like the graphic shows. Like So the leap that the Knicks made, they were like, I was scouting Cade Cunningham during that season. And then suddenly it's like, wait, we're in the playoffs. So what am I doing? We're on pace to be a host of playoff series. That's impossible. So, bring it on. I'll take on all the smoke, but all the fans that want to show up. Aaron, before you get out of here, tell the fine folks where they can find you and all your stuff.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram. I'm usually in Phoenix. I've got a couple stand-up shows, mostly just going to be next year, but I have the Uncle Show that's going to be every month at Valley Bar. It's going to be third weekend of every month. Come on out. It's really fun, really stupid. It's like Eric Andre meets Black Uncles. Come on there.
That sounds something I'd be interested in. We actually have some KFS audience members, a couple of patrons actually that are from the Tucson, the Phoenix, the Arizona. Yeah. So, listen, I'm an ignorant New Yorker. Anything outside of the Hudson River is just like the West. So, but do you ever travel to New York to perform? Or
no, I was going to. Here? Like, I had a show planned literally 2 weeks before the pandemic. Like, I was supposed to fly out like that Friday, and the world shut down, and I never got to go. Yikes. Well, if you ever make it back, I would love to catch one of your shows. And of course, you're welcome back to Knicks Film School anytime. Thank you for joining me for this show, Aaron. Oh, thanks for having me. I'll definitely do this again.